This is Justin Isis, and I'm here with John Paul Rye. John, can you say hi?
How you doing out there, Justin? Thank you for having me on the podcast, first of all.
No worries, yeah. So we're going to be talking a little bit about our Snuggly Books' upcoming book, Marked to Die, a tribute to Mark Samuels.
All right, well, first thing that comes to my mind, Justin, is out of all the authors, why Mark Samuels?
Well, I'd known about Mark for a while. I mean, I heard about him and eventually met him through some other writer friends. And initially I did not feel like I had much stylistically or thematically in common with him. But yeah, I read his books and came to really admire them. And I think Mark's background, I mean, he's really coming out of this kind of, he's been writing and publishing for, since the 80s, essentially.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a while, right? And, he really came out of this he kind of worked his way up through this, kind of zine and, horror, magazine scene, right? So, and he's really, I feel like his writing is really connected to this kind of, tradition. I mean, it draws a lot of influence from Lovecraft or Poe. And again, it's pretty different from my own, concerns. So I thought it'd be interesting. I guess because it didn't seem like an obvious match, it seemed a bit more interesting to try something like this. And I just thought he needed some props, I just thought that, he has been pretty...
Absolutely. Lovecraft and Poe is, some very good influence.
Yeah, and Mark too, I feel like he's been pretty influential recently with a lot of writers, so, it just kind of seemed like the right thing at the right time.
All right, great. So, tell me about some of your guidelines for the writers who were contributing to Marked to Die.
Well, again, with these tribute anthologies, I guess the main danger is that it's going to just be like a pastiche, like it's just going to go into their themes, go into their style, and not really do too much else. So I wanted to kind of balance that with, just people going just off the map, just writers, kind of combining his style or his themes with some more off the map material. And I think we did that. I think it does have that kind of balance of what you'd expect, along with some things that you probably wouldn't expect as well.
All right, man. What do you think about about tribute anthologies now in the market? Like, how do you think they're doing as compared to just a novel that somebody writes? How do you feel about like a bunch of authors contributing to one piece of work?
Yeah, tribute anthologies, like it does seem almost like a trend at the moment. Originally it started with tributes to, more established canonical kind of writers, like Poe or Lovecraft. But recently it's moved up to tributes to living writers, which personally I think is more interesting because it's more like a dialogue. The writer in question is going to read it, obviously, and is probably going to react to other people reacting to them, which I think is more interesting for me. The other thing, too, is it's not closed. If the writer is still going to go on and produce more things, it's not like you're just, having a party in the graveyard or whatever. You're having you're contributing to something that's ongoing, which, seems more interesting to me. So I really took that into account. I'm not going to confirm this, but, there may actually be some, Mark Samuels material.
That will be very nice.
In this book, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, people have to buy it and find out, but, he may have, contributed something to it, which...
That would be a nice twist.
Yeah.
If the author who the novel was given a tribute to was contributing, that would be very cool.
Yeah, I was gonna just ask him outright. And I always thought that would be the ideal thing, is if he has to imitate himself, or if they have to react to themselves in that context. So yeah, I think people will have to buy it and find out if that's in there.
Okay. Well, the thing I'm most interested in, just to be honest, is I want to know about, what do you think about some of the stories? I know you've read them all, and I haven't got a chance to read all of them yet. I've read a few of them. But I want to know about you. I want to know what stood out about some of the stories to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of the ones that I was most excited about were the ones that actually used Mark himself as a character. Because I hadn't seen this done I hadn't really seen this done in other tributes. I mean, I'd seen it done a little bit.
I got to stop you for a second. I
Yeah.
thought that was incredibly interesting to see a tribute book about Mark and Mark as a character, and that's pretty original. I don't think I could recall seeing that done before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer to me. I mean,
Yeah.
you might as well.
Real cool.
You're not just getting his writing. I mean, it's kind of including his life as well. And I think they did have that in some of the like Lovecraft. I mean, you know, Poe has been used as a character. Lovecraft has been used as a character.
Okay, okay.
But again, I mean, they're both dead, right? So I mean,
Yes.
getting someone living,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, the stories there's a Brendan Connell and Quentin S. Crisp story that does that. There's a story by James Champagne, which is like it's almost like the Hunt for Red October. I mean, it's set on a Russian nuclear submarine.
Yes, I remember that. Very, very tense story.
I mean, it's really off the map. I mean, it's a really surreal story. So I was excited about that one. But I mean, I think people are going to enjoy all of them. I mean, there's some of them. There's one there's a Daniel Mills story, which is about Saint John of the Cross. So you got that sandwiched between, you know, Mark Samuels killing people and, you know, the Russian nuclear submarine. So I think there's something for everyone, you know.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Justin,
there's so many different
let me
stories.
ask you this.
So what's in store for you for the future of editing? Are you working on any writing?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of personal projects coming out. I mean, I have a novel that should be out at the end of this year. There's more short story collections in the works as well. But I am looking to continue editing. I mean, I had a great time with this and with previous anthology projects. So I was talking with a friend, and we're thinking of also with Snuggly. We're thinking about putting out a neo-decadent anthology at some point next year. And there's other. I mean, there's no shortage of projects. Actually, when I was in touch with Reggie Oliver for this book, I was thinking of doing some kind of tribute to him. You know, that topic came up. And I was thinking this would be something that you could do a lot with because, I mean, his aunt is Stella Gibbons, who wrote Cold Comfort Farm.
Okay.
And I think, you know, he's a playwright. He had plays produced, and he also wrote the Dracula papers. You know, the background of Dracula.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, what if you just put all these together so you could have like Dracula, like Cold Comfort Farm, like something like that. I mean, I just thought, you know, you could bring all these ideas together and make something interesting. But I have a lot of ideas. I mean, I have like probably about 100 ideas for.
That's a lot. 100 is a lot.
Yeah, well, for anthologies, I mean, there's a lot of things I think would be interesting. So
you say you're working on a novel. Can you give us a little bit of a hint what it's like, what it's about?
I just can't even explain it. I mean, it's really
abstract.
Yeah,
or can you give it a theme, a category it would fall under?
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, I guess you could call it, you know, symbolist. You know, capital S symbolist science fiction or something, but
okay, so you could say sci-fi to be safe.
Yeah. I'll try to err on the safe side and say it's like that.
Okay,
but yeah,
sci-fi has many meanings.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah. So that'll hopefully be out sometime at the end of this year.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's Mark to Die, and you know, I hope everyone listening will hopefully order it. So John, I mean, you know, John, who's sitting right next to me now, is actually making his publishing debut with this book. So yeah, John, could you maybe just introduce yourself briefly, give a little bit of your background?
Yeah, my name's John Paul Rye, and I've been doing creative stuff my whole life. In college, I worked on a paper, and I printed a comic for, I'd say, about 5 years. I had a continuing comic story, so I'm no stranger to writing stories. It just was never quite in the form of writing. And I also had a comic printed in a a New York City newspaper called Street News. It was a charity paper that was the profits were given to the homeless.
Right.
So I've been published, but not quite in this way. So
Right, right. One thing that people may not be aware of is that when I asked John to contribute to this project, not only had he never read anything by Mark Samuels, but he'd never even heard of him, right? So, and most of the other contributors to this book, not only had they read his work, but I mean, a lot of the contributors are actually, his real life friends. So, I thought that was pretty interesting for me was getting John's take on someone you never read, someone you never really engaged with before. To see him, reading it for the first time and then having his own take on it. So John, what would you say was? Let's just lay out the situation. Like, what was running through your mind when you were reading this for the first time and when you were getting started on your own story?
okay, yeah. Well, first of all, Justin gave me a copy of The White Hands and Other Weird Tales, and you'll hear writers say and publishers say the most important thing about writing is the hook. You want to be hooked on a story. You need to look at a book or you need to look at a story and say, this is why I want to keep reading it.
Right.
So The White Hands basically acts as a hook for the story.
Right.
I say, what is The White Hands? I want to keep reading. I want to know what it is. And as I kept reading, I was fascinated because it was just simplistic. I just wanted to know what these white hands were, and it could be a number of things. Maybe it's a horror genre, obviously, so maybe somebody's circulation's, in jeopardy and their hands are going white, or maybe it's somebody's white gloves, or, maybe whoever has the white hands isn't human. So it's just like, I see white hands, I want to know what it is. And the title acts as a hook, which was really cool.
I think it's a good title. I mean, so what were your main concerns when you were writing this story? I mean, what was running through your mind when you were coming up with it?
All right. Well, basically, I knew it was supposed to be the horror genre, so obviously I wanted something that was kind of scary to put the reader in a situation that they wouldn't really want to be in real life. But the thing I'm into is immersion in books. When you're reading a book, you want to be immersed. You want to forget what else is going on in your life. You want to forget what's going on in the room. You just want to be immersed in that book. So the thing I wanted to do was try to put the reader in the shoes of the character. And I want my story's about a prison, so I wanted the reader to feel trapped with the character, basically. I want you to feel like you're in a situation that you just can't get out of, and you don't know how you're going to get out of it.
Right. I mean, it's a pretty grim story. I mean, it's probably, even in this book, it's probably one of the grimmer stories. What would you say you think is the main difference between horror fiction and weird fiction? Do you think there's a difference there?
I mean, horror fiction is cut and dry. You want to be scared. You want to feel like you're in danger, that something bad's going to happen. With weird fiction, you want to be curious as well. You want to be kind of thinking, I want to know what this is. I want to know more about this. You want to be intrigued. But with horror, you just want to be scared. You want to be immersed, basically.
Right. Yeah, I think Mark Samuels, I mean, he's got stories that kind of have elements of both there. All right, good. So now you've got this out, I mean, hopefully people will be paying some attention and noticing this. What would you say is in your future? I mean, where do you hope to go from here with writing?
Well, I mean, for me to be dead honest, writing is a hobby for me at this point. I'm working on a fantasy novel, and I'd just be happy to have some beta readers give me an opinion on what they think of my novel. And when that is finished, a work is never finished. There's always something you could do for it. But when I consider it finished, then I'll see what I do from there. But I've enjoyed working with you, of course.
Well, thanks. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's always good to have beta readers, but why would you? I just wonder why some people sell themselves short. Why they wouldn't be looking for alpha readers instead of beta readers?
I'm not sure I know what the difference is.
Oh no, yeah.
Alpha, beta.
That's just,
I'm not as advanced of a writer as you.
oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think, yeah, if you're gonna,
I mean, look, put it this way: if let's say I had a dozen people read it,
right,
give me
right,
some
right,
feedback. I'm gonna take the best feedback from that dozen people, and then when 100 people read it, it's gonna be that much better.
okay, yeah, yeah.
You know, so you definitely need some eyes and I respect all opinions because you
Right.
can't view your writing the same way
Right,
readers can.
right. So if we were going to define the term alpha reader, what do you think the definition for that term would be?
As opposed to beta,
Yeah.
I thought alpha was beta came after alpha.
Yeah, well, they do, right?
Alpha stages and then beta stages, so I thought it was past alpha into the beta stages.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just too much of a gamer, so I'm getting confused.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like a beta reader, they just read your writing and they're just like, oh, it's great, you know, it's
Okay.
great. And then an alpha reader is just like they just kind of just lay it out like it is. I don't know. Maybe that's my impression, but I could be wrong.
I'll take either or.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. So I think we're about ready to wrap this up. But yeah, Mark to Die, a tribute to Mark Samuels. You should check this book out. I am Justin Isis, and this is
John Foray.
okay. And we're wishing you a good night or a good morning wherever you might be.
Thank you.